As runners, we all challenge ourselves in ways we never thought possible, pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of to smash through targets and set ourselves new, bigger and better ones.
This awesome hobby that we share gives us one thing in common, and it brings us together as a community. Whether you're working towards completing your first parkrun or you're a veteran of the sport who's run 100 ultra marathons, we all know the feeling of reaching that maxed out effort and our own red line.
Welcome to our podcast, where your hosts Brett Elsmore and Andy Maguire discuss the struggles, the successes and everything in between on our running journeys, as we all work towards the next time we're running the red line. Right, we are live. Welcome to episode 4 of Running the Red Line. We are getting there. We are getting closer to that magic number of 7 episodes. We're halfway there, Andy. How are you doing this week, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I can't believe this didn't just end after the pilot. We're 4 episodes. We're still doing it. Normally, I cannot commit to anything longer than a one-time only thing. So can't believe we're still doing. We've done 4. It's
hopefully it keeps going strong as it is at the moment. Interaction's been amazing. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening or watching on YouTube and commenting as well. It's really good to have that interaction with people.
It's crazy to think that there's actually people out there that are listening to the waffle, that are actually listening to us. So yes, thank you very, very much.
So, let's go to you first. How's your week been?
Pretty good, if I'm honest. I've what have I done? I've entered a race officially.
Ooh.
So, in fact, it's been there's one maybe that I haven't booked that I'm going to book. There's one definitely that I booked, and there's one that I'm doing on Sunday. We'll talk about them all. So, First of all, no surprises. This came in the post. I got my Great North Run t-shirt through the post today because I did last year. And once you do the Great North Run, they offer you, if you want to be a member, so you can get guaranteed entry for 3 years. So you don't have to do the ballot.
Okay.
Any charity sponsorship stuff. So I said yes because, I just wanted to just guarantee. I didn't want to have to go through the ballot again, all that sort. So yeah, I thought, I'll do it. And then I got an email on basically the day before this was about to happen. They said, you haven't actually entered. Do you still not want to do it? I was like, oh, I thought the membership guaranteed me entry. That you actually had to enter. So yeah, they took my money and I'm definitely in. So I'll definitely be on the Great North Run start line. So that's exciting.
Amazing. So this year, is that a goal race this year? So are you aiming to run quick there?
Well, I don't know, because unless you're at the front of the pack, it probably isn't conducive to doing a PB at the Great North Run, because the amount of I don't know. There's just so many reasons why a PB probably doesn't happen to so many people on the Great North Run. But having said all that, yeah, why not? Let's probably go try. Let's try and go for it.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
So I don't think I'll be doing the. Oh God, am I going to say this? I'm going to drop her in it. So I'm trying to talk Laura into doing the Worcester City Runs half marathon, which is the week after the Great North Run. So I'm going to maybe, if she says yes, if she says yeah, let's do it, then I'll run with her, and we'll try and do an equally epic half marathon, because she did her first ever one last year at the Great North Run. So yeah, I'm trying to talk her into doing that. And if she does that, then maybe I'll go, for a hard Great North Run. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
Is the ballot for the Great North Run still open? The ballot?
That's a good question. I've got a feeling it might have just closed at the end of January. We'll have to maybe we can Google that and find out, but
yeah,
I'm not sure if it's
I was very tempted to enter, but we may have a gig that weekend, and it's that whole thing of, do I enter and get a place, and then I've got a gig and I can't do it, and it's one of those. So I think I might try and do the Worcester City runs and try and have a good crack at that this year instead.
Nice, mate. Yeah. So are you I mean, it's difficult to say when it's 8 months away, isn't it? But like, if you know, everything goes as you'd like it to go, would you try and go for a PB that day?
Oh, definitely. But knowing the course now and knowing that it's not too hilly or anything, both of my fastest half marathons have been on a stupid hilly course. So if I can get to the same fitness as that and hit a flatter course, fingers crossed, I can hit that PB.
Yeah, it's as I found out, it's definitely PBable. It's fairly flat. Well, it is pretty flat, isn't it? I think the elevation is just over 100 meters for the whole half marathon, so it's not that bad at all. And what's that, 300 foot, 400 foot, or something like that? It's not that bad. No. So I'd give it a go, and I'd say to anyone really, if you fancy a fast half marathon. The only thing is about it, it's very twisty and turny.
Yes,
so
it is.
I don't know if you remember that middle third, that section of the city.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky if you got 100-meter sprint, 100-meter straight, really, because you're always being told to go left and right. And
that bit was a bit technical, but I suppose I think I'd prefer that to lots of hills, to be honest.
Yeah, you say that, but you'll probably blame the fact that you didn't get a PB on the fact that it wasn't hilly enough, or it was. But I think you could have a really good stab at it, and it's, you know, just pre-autumn marathon season. So, are we too early to talk about whether you'll be doing a marathon in the autumn, or do you think you'll be training for anything?
I don't know. I've never done an autumn marathon, and I don't know if I want to get into that whole thing of doing 2 marathons a year. I might just do the 1 marathon each year and just target that as a target race at the start of the year for spring, and then I can concentrate on the shorter stuff and do track over summer, and then actually focus on a half marathon maybe, because I've never actually, well, I say never, I have. That's a complete and utter lie. But what I mean is, last year I didn't actually train for any of the half marathons I did. They just appeared. So there wasn't any specific training for that race. So if I'm going to go for a PB, it'd be nice to have a point where I'm specifically training for that actual race.
Because at Brum last year in May, we were sat in Five Guys having our chips and burgers that cost about 48 quid, by the way. And you were looking at your
They're worth
Strava.
It though, aren't they?
Oh, they are.
They're worth it.
You get your money's worth of chips, don't you? They don't skimp on the chips, do they? At
100%.
So I suppose that's not bad. It's about £1 a chip, but it's good value. And you said to me, we were looking at our Strava with a mouthful of food, and you were like, "I was only 3 seconds off my PB today. How did that happen?" Because you didn't even go out to get one, did you? And then you looked at your watch.
I was trying for it. I went out to try and hit that pace, but I wasn't prepared for it at all, because obviously the marathon had been 3 or 4 weeks before, and then I hadn't rested properly after the marathon, and I was carrying all sorts of niggles and fatigue and everything. So I hadn't trained for it, but I went out at trying to get that PB. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it was close.
It falls at a strange time, doesn't it, for anyone that's run a marathon? It's normally 2-3 weeks after a lot of people have just done a marathon. So to do the Birmingham half, which normally is the first or second weekend of May, falls at a terrible time for a lot of people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're not doing a marathon and you've got your eye on a good half marathon, then I would say, even if you are doing a marathon, it's a good race to do.
Yeah,
because it's organised by the same people as the Great North Run and stuff. So it's big. It's a big race. But I'd definitely say give the Birmingham half a go, because it's a well-supported race, well-run. Yeah, a lot of people do it.
I think I do want to do it again this year, but I'm going to properly take some proper rest after Manchester this year and see if after having that proper rest, rather than rushing myself back into training, will have a different effect to what I actually did last year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And well, I'm in two minds about whether to even do it at all, because I've got Newport the week before it. So I think it's on the 5th or something like that of May this year.
Yeah,
And
yours is later, isn't it? Your marathon's later.
28th of April, the week after London, I think. So yeah, but that's a strange one. But before we move the conversation on, what I was going to say just quickly was,
sorry, yes.
I'm going to probably book a 20-mile race, which I can't believe. I've never considered doing one, but I think it would be a really good thing to do. So there's one called the Fission 20 miler, which is down in Gloucestershire. And I think I'm going to enter that because I think that would be a good way to really roll out some steady and marathon pace miles, which is what a lot of people will use the race for.
Yes.
So yeah.
I was having a look at this after you mentioned it, and I think it possibly falls on my peak weekend. So that might be a good one for me to do to hit my peak week Sunday long run.
Yeah.
So use it as a session rather than a full-on race, because I don't want to be racing a 20-mile race that close to a marathon, but do it as my session. So do sections at marathon pace and stuff. So that sounds like it could be a really good plan.
I think it's on St. George's Day. I think it's on Saturday. No, that's April, isn't it? Sorry. 23rd of March it is, not April. So it's it's a Saturday, the 23rd of March. So yes, a Saturday race. So I've never
I've
done a Saturday race before, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the last thing I was going to say was Warwick.
Yes, that is this weekend for you, isn't it?
Yeah, for anyone that's listening, I'm scrumpling my race bib because that came in the post this week. And yeah, looking forward to the Warwick half on Sunday. So see some of you down there who are going to do it. Excited for it.
Excellent. Is that number what your 5K PB is going to be at the end of the year?
18:31, mate. Oh, come on. I did have a go at a 5K PB last week and I managed to run. So my PB is 20:37 and I ran 20:47 last week.
Oh, nice.
And this is a good, I haven't written this in my notes or anything to talk about, but this is actually a good topic. Have you ever run a race or a run, a park run, or a run of any description that wasn't a PB, but you're in a way prouder of that run than a PB race? Because the way that I ran last week was better than the one I got a PB on, if you know what I mean. So looking at my splits, they were all within 1 or 2 seconds of each other. And my last split was maybe my fastest ever kilometer during anything above intervals. Nice. So I finished the race with a 3:56, I think, which, to a lot of people might sound slow, but to me it's rapid. 3:56 per K is that's 6:10, is it? Per mile or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's quick because and that's a 4-minute kilometer is a 6:27 mile.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's way beyond my pay grade as well. But maybe people will argue that it's not, and I should be running that. But whatever. Anyway, I had enough in the tank to have a hard last kilometer, and I got done on the line again.
I know that karma's come to bite you in the ass.
I know. So, just to give everybody context, about a month ago, just at Christmas, Brett came over to try Worcester Woods Parkrun, which is my local. And he was doing a bit of filming me. And then I spotted a gap. Let's just say that. I saw a window of opportunity and I took it. And I overtook. It was a petty little victory, but it's a victory all the same. And I remember saying about a week or two ago, well, last time I was here, I overtook Brett with 1 meter to go. And then that same park run, someone did me on the line. And then it happened last week again. So do you know that I feel that in hard 5Ks, I haven't quite mastered the art of a final 5K sprint finish, because that is hard. Because I find a 5K very hard, and then you've got to find something extra. And especially when you feel somebody breathing down your neck who's, let's face it, faster than you, you've got to try and respond. that's an art that I'm just going to have to learn. And I'm actually glad it happened twice in a week, because it's kind of showed me that I need to, if I ever do want to race, I need to be able to close a race. I need to be able to be strong until the last second.
Yeah, but 5Ks are a weird distance, aren't they? Because it is one of those distances where you are on the red line for the whole of it. It's not like you can go out slow and ease into it. If you are going for a time, you are out of the blocks going for it, because it's not long enough to slowly, gradually get up to pace and just past pace. It is, you need to get out and get a good start, and then sit at that that cadence.
Uncomfortable.
And,
so it's quite an uncomfortable pace, isn't it? But but I was really pleased with, looking back at my splits. I was really pleased with, I think I ran 4:10s, 4:11s. So in old money, that's what, 6:35s or something like that, isn't it? 6:40s or something. And
so that sub 20 is getting closer and closer all the time.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will happen before Newport. I'd like to get a 5K PB, which would be 6:30, 20:36 or below. But a sub 20, if I was a betting man, I'd say second half of the year. I think that's maybe. Hopefully, the 2024 is the year of the sub 20.
That can be one of our questions of this pod: is what month do you think Andy is going to hit a sub 25K this year?
Or what year? Will it be this year? Will it be in the 2020s? So yeah, but I would absolutely love to go sub 20, because it's a huge milestone to hit. And let's face it, the more I've sort of progressed with my running, the more I've realized how hard a sub 20 is. It requires a lot of effort. And massive kudos to anyone that's sub 20 or below.
But you'll be surprised, as soon as you've hit that 20-minute mark, you'll be surprised how quickly it comes down. I know it's harder and harder to get time off, because when you think about it, if you're running a 30-minute 5K, it's quite, I won't say easy, because it's not easy, but it's easier to knock 5 minutes or 10 minutes off that 30-minute 5K than it is to knock 30 seconds once you get below 20 minutes. But you'll be surprised how quickly you manage to get down those seconds after you've hit that 20-minute for the first time. Because once you know how it feels, you know what you've got to do to achieve that each time.
So what's your kind of 5K journey then? When did you first hit? Do you remember when you hit your first sub 20, or was it a long time ago?
I think I hit my first sub 20 in 2013.
Wow.
So the first year I did Parkrun. Do you know what? I'm going to have a look just to check, because I don't know whether I'm telling porcupines there, but I think it was either 2013 or 2014, I think.
Nice. So that obviously, So at the time, were you just running park runs and going for jogs around the block, or
So back then I was basically just running to go and run the marathon each year, but I was going down to Parkrun because my first Parkrun was in 2013. So I was going down, and once I'd hit that 20 minutes, if I wasn't feeling great that week, I wouldn't go down to Parkrun because I didn't want to do slower than 20 minutes.
Really?
So I got into a habit of only going down knowing that I would be able to break 20 minutes. And it was one of those things where you want your times to look really good. Now I don't care. I'll go and run a 25, 30-minute Parkrun and I won't really care. But back then it was like, I want it to be all under 20s. But
wow. And that was really before the days of
So my first ever Parkrun at Ara Valley was on the 15th of June 2013.
Yeah.
And I ran 19:08.
Dude,
So
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad. And then I first broke 19 minutes in 2014. I did an 18:53.
Yeah, nice. So what's your PB at the moment?
17:16.
17:16. So have you got one eye on that this year?
Yes. So my target for this year is the same target I set myself last year, which I didn't quite hit. Got a PB last year, but didn't hit my target, was to get into them 16s.
Would you consider a 5K on the track? Would you, if you ran I don't know, 17:10, would you say that's a 5K PB?
Oh,
or is that a track PB?
I'd still say it was a track PB, but I'd claim it as a 5K PB. It's still the same distance.
It's still the same distance, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. I drove 5K the other day in 4 minutes, so it's still the same distance. So,
yeah. But I would claim it as a 5K PB, but it is different. It is different.
Yeah.
But that is one of my targets this year, is to try and get that 5K down. Now I've got my 10K down to where I wanted it to be. I'm happy with that this year, so I'm going to concentrate on the 5K and the half and try and get those down to where I want them to be.
Yeah, cool. That sounds doable. Are you going to look at the summer sort of post marathon? Did you say
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, everything at the moment is focused on actually just getting to Manchester, let alone PB in an effort at Manchester, because that's the thing. This week, I've not been in a great way, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, after Saturday's cross country. So when we started off, I made a bit of a mistake thinking it was 10K like normally the cross countries are, but I forgot that the Midlands and the Nationals are actually 12K, so they're 7.5 mile. So I set off at stupid pace.
Hang on, you realised this mid race?
Well, no, I knew just as we went onto the start line, I was chatting and I was like, "Oh, yeah, right. It is 10K, isn't it?" And they went, "Oh no, it's 12K." So
wow.
I set off and then realised after a mile I had no right to be where I was in the pack running at that pace. So pulled back a bit and ran a bit slower, but there was no way I could have gone any faster than I did on Saturday. It was tough. Yeah. And we set off and the course was different to last year because we were going the opposite way around. So I just thought they'd just reversed the route. And then 3/4 of the way around the lap, bearing in mind it's a 3-lap race, there was a massive hill. So I thought it was just a reverse of the route, but it wasn't. And there was a big old hill in the middle that we had to then do 3 times. And my pace just got slower and slower as the race went on. But it was great fun. But during it, I could feel the pain that I had on my right-hand side when I had my injury.
Yeah,
I could feel it starting to appear on the opposite side, on the left. And then I did all my stretching and everything on the Saturday. Got up on Sunday a bit later because we did a gig in the evening. So rushed back from cross country, went and did a gig, got back at stupid o'clock again. It's a bit like, remember Alton Towers? It's the same as what I did for that. So I made sure I had a lie-in on the Sunday and went out for my run a bit later. But during that run, it was all right. It wasn't too bad, but it took about 10 miles to loosen up. And eventually, once it loosened up, I was like, that's cool. That's fine. And then Tuesday, it felt tight. And then Wednesday, couldn't do Tuesday. So I went out for a run on Wednesday and it felt tight. And then yesterday, I did my first proper session with B&R since my injury. And it just wasn't feeling right. And on the last rep, I called it a 5 reps. And on the last rep, I finished and was like standing around. And one of the club members, Lisa, she was running steady because she's running Warwick Half on the weekend as well. And she said, "Are you all right?" Because I was stood whilst everybody else was still doing more reps, and I said, "Yeah, I just called it there because it was starting to feel a bit tight." She went, "Oh yeah, I could tell you were limping a little bit on that last rep." So I was like, "Oh great!" It wasn't just hurting; it actually was causing my form.
It was affecting your form, yeah.
So that wasn't great last night, but I had physio today with Nat at Body Cares. So shout out to Nat. She used her magic hands and her magic elbow and got her elbow into my glute and has loosened it off quite a bit. So it's still not right, but it's better than it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not been a great week, but I'm still managing to get about, so it's not as bad as it was the other side.
Yeah. I've seen that you've been smashing the elliptical on Strava and you've been living on that thing. Yeah.
Yes. And as much as I hate it, I really don't like being in the same spot at the same time, doing half an hour and not moving anywhere. I want to be outside in the fresh air.
Yeah.
It does its job because it hasn't got that impact. After half an hour on the elliptical, it does start to loosen up and feel all right. So yeah, as much as I hate it, it is a good tool.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of shout outs, I did a long run in company the other day. So on Sunday,
yes, you did.
I went out with Mac and Rich, so two lads from where we live, and we'd gone out for a drink on the Saturday night. Mac was on the Rattler. So Rattler's a rather potent Cornish cider, let's just say. And I said to him in the car park on the way home, I said, "Oh, by the way," and I'd already talked Rich into coming with me. I said, "I'm going to do a 26K run tomorrow if you want to come." And Rich is like, "Yeah, go on then. Yeah, I'll probably be up for that." I said to Mac, I was like, "Mac, do you fancy it?" He's like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, see you in the morning." I haven't told you what time yet. So he did. To be fair, he did. He must have. I don't know how he recovered really, because he was a little bit squiffy, let's say.
Yeah.
But on
was
the
he running
on
sideways for some of it, like a crab?
Like a crab, definitely. But no, we all run really well. We all run really well. So that could be the fueling of choice for our marathons, a bit of the old Rattler. So, but no, so that was really good. So running in a group of people for the long run was really nice. And we sort of, I've said to the lads, I said, well, you've essentially ran my session, because it was like, I'd already planned what I was going to do. Like I had a block of easy and then a block of steady and blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, to make it fair, let me know what you want to run next week and we'll do yours. And then Mac will choose his the couple of weeks after. So yeah, that was really nice. Good.
That sounds like a plan, actually. And then you're running with company, which makes everything go quicker.
Yeah. So, and we all sort of said after a couple of hours of the run, like, how was 2 hours passed? Because we were just nattering the whole time. So yeah, really, really helped the time pass on the long run. So yeah, shout out to those boys.
And if you're nattering the whole time, it shows that you're running easy or within yourself. Because if you're if you're running at conversational pace, then you can't be pushing it too hard, which is probably a good idea.
Yeah. That was exactly the plan. So hopefully nothing was too strenuous, especially with a hangover. So I don't know how we all managed to get around, but yeah, looking at the splits, we all managed it, and it was good fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Back to the recovery thing I was saying about as well with my injury. Something I have been doing this week as well is I bought it back in November, but I've been plucking up the courage to try and actually sort it out and set it up and everything. But on Sunday, before I went out for my long run, I finally set up my ice bath.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have been ice
bathing. Do you feel like Wim Hof? You know, the big guy with the big beard.
I'm trying to use it as a recovery tool rather than the Wim Hof route, because it seems to be the big fad at the moment. There seems to be every man and his dog's company are making ice baths, because it's the fad at the moment of make yourself feel brilliant, have an ice bath every morning. But I'm going for what athletes have been doing. Not that I'm calling myself an athlete. But
you said it now. You said it.
But what athletes have been doing for years of having an ice bath after a hard session or after a run to speed up the muscle recovery. And I must say, I don't know whether it's in my head or whether it is actually doing it, but it seems to be helping with recovery big time.
Amazing.
The muscle soreness after long runs or after sessions is nowhere near as bad as it was before I was doing that. So it must be doing something good.
Oh, that's good. So what, like, without needing a science lesson, what actually does cold water? Do you know what it actually does to muscles? Does it like
I'm not.
compress them or help them relax, or
No,
like?
I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think the coldness speeds up the repair of the micro tears that you are causing from the use of your muscles. So it speeds up the recovery of those, which then obviously stops the soreness as much.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds pretty good. So would you recommend? I mean, I don't know how many times you've used it, but would you say everyone should?
I've used it every day that I've done a run or a session this week. So 4 times this week, 3 minutes in the icy water. I say icy water, but my water in my ice bath at the moment is about 7 degrees. So it's still cold.
Snippy.
Yeah, because I mean, what's a fridge at? Fridge is at 4 degrees, is it?
Yeah.
So it's cold because I've put the ice bath outside in my back garden. So yeah, it is cold, but I'm spending 3 minutes in there, and they say apparently the guidance is don't stay in there more than a minute per degree of the water. So if the water's 3 degrees, 3 minutes is the maximum you should be in there. So I could, if I wanted to, probably push it to 6-7 minutes, but I'm doing 3 minutes in there just to get used to it, and then hopefully I can either lower the temperature of the water or start to spend a bit longer in there.
Sounds good.
But there's no better feeling than getting out of an ice bath and getting straight into a hot shower. Oh,
yeah, I can imagine.
So good, so good.
So you have to make that run.
Yeah,
straight to the shower. Yeah. It'll feel quite pleasant, I would have thought. Not pleasant, but in the summer.
Yeah.
If you can keep that temperature down.
Yeah.
So I don't know how would you make sure that temperature doesn't creep up to?
It's got reflective inners to the ice bath, and then it's got a cover that you put on the top that's got a reflective side to it as well. So I'm guessing if you put ice in it in the summer, it should help keep it cool rather than warming up in the sun.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. Oh, good. So so far so good then.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep using it and see what happens over the next month and see if it actually does me any good, but it seems to be at the moment. So yeah, all good.
Well, I've been doing a bit of since I had what's the word? Freak out. I've got a paranoia already after week 3, and I kind of had this not realization, but after when we listened to Steve Cram for all of 6 minutes when we heard the end of his talk the other week at the running show, and someone asked the question about the 80-20 thing, and that made me sort of reconsider a lot of the running that I'm doing during the week, because when I think about it, I'm worried I'm not pushing myself hard enough. I feel like, because you could argue that I'm still a relatively new runner. I've only been doing this 4 years. So I've still got like an upward trajectory, and with consistency, there's only hopefully one way you're going to go. But I feel like I could make better progress if I trained maybe a little bit less easy. Now I know how that sounds. It sounds greedy and it sounds reckless, but at the end of the day, I've got some ideas on finish times that I want to get this year.
Yeah.
And I know that if I keep doing what I'm doing, like this sub 25K, I can't really keep willing and wishing for it if I'm not actually going to do the work to get it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I feel like, and I've made a couple of changes. Like, for example, on easy days, I'm now introducing steady states. And so it's only, I mean, it sounds a lot, but I'm doing 30 seconds faster per K. in my easy run. So I did an easy run the other day, which would have been an easy run. I did the whole thing steady. And again, you could say, well, that's stupid, or you should be doing easy. Easy day should be easy. But a lot of my other runs have got big easy blocks in them. So they're the easy miles.
See,
and
I don't think it's greedy or reckless, because
really?
why is going for a PB and trying to improve your times greedy?
Yeah.
It's not greedy at all. You want to improve yourself, and that's never a bad thing. So you can't put a bad idea like greedy onto something of trying to improve your performance. And I don't think it's reckless at all, because that steady state running is the basis of a long distance runner. Your easy pace is for those easy runs. And I mean, if you're constantly doing easy runs, are you ever going to get any faster? You're going to get your body used to doing easy, and that's all it's ever going to know. So unless you're doing those training sessions where you're pushing it, then you're never going to improve. I don't agree with that 80-20 thing. I don't think it's right.
Have you ever trained in that way to make you realize that?
Well, when I first started running, I pretty much did all of my running at an easy pace, because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I would say 80% of my running was at an easy pace, and then I was going and running Parkrun and stuff at a faster pace. So it was basically an 80-20. And as a beginner, I think 80-20 is probably right as a beginner runner, because you don't want to be pushing too much too soon. And you don't want to be flogging your body, so then you hate running and you never do it again. You want to slowly build into it to become enamored with running, like we are. But when you're a couple of years in, and when you're trying to actually improve your times, then you need to start putting that effort into your runs. Otherwise, your body doesn't know how effort feels. So when you come to race, your body's not going to be prepared.
Yeah. So I had a comment on the video that I made when I sort of talked about it. A guy called Dave Napier said, I mean, just to paraphrase what he said he basically changed up the way he trained for a certain race. I think it was before Christmas, just gone, and had his eye on not just to getting a PB by a couple of seconds. He wanted to smash it. He wanted a big PB. Got that PB, then got injured. He thinks it could have been because of the training load, but then finished his comment by saying the injury was totally worth it. Now because he got that PB. So that for him, maybe I don't know, Dave, but maybe he takes his Januaries nice and slow anyway. Maybe the Christmas period, having that time off with the family, if you're going to get injured over time, maybe that's not the end of the world. So maybe he's kind of saying, I've got my PB in the bag now. I've got bragging rights for life. I've got that time that I really wanted. Yes, I'm injured, but I can come back from this. I know hopefully touch wood for him, it's not a serious injury. And we've touched on the whole risk versus reward, and a lot of people have, talk about that, don't they? But for him, it was worth it. And it's amazing to hear his honesty in saying, I'm injured now, but I don't care, because I got my time that I wanted. And there's so much value in that honesty. And, I applaud you for that, Dave. Most people like me are too scared to get injured. I'm worried that I've got massive FOMO, and that's one of my biggest limiting factors in my life, really. I worry that I'm an overthinker, and I get in my own head a lot. And I worry that if I do X, Y, Z, this such and such will happen. So if you can convert that to running, if I do too many interval sessions, if I do too many, faster things, then if I do too many long runs, I'm going to get injured and I'm going to miss out, or I'm going to put myself back. But maybe you should just live in the moment more. Well, maybe you should live a little bit more on the edge.
It's that risk versus reward thing of how much can you put on the line to get what you actually want. And I mean, how many professional runners get injured pretty much all of them. Why? Because they're working on the edge of their abilities all the time and pushing their bodies to the limit. And I mean, look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen at the moment. He's injured and he's not doing the world indoors. He's not doing a lot of things because he's concentrating now for the Olympics. But it's because he's injured. And why is he injured? Because he runs fast constantly. He pushes his body. He does double threshold training. And that's not 80-20.
That's 80-20 intensive to easy, isn't it?
But he'd be ridiculous to do the 80-20 split because he's not going to get what he wants out of that. No. And he needs to be running at that speed to get his body used to running at that speed. So
go on.
Sorry, it's like Steve Cram was saying, like everybody's now raving about this double threshold system and saying it's the way forward and how people should be training to push their bodies and blah, 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 blah. But Steve Cram was saying, but when I think back to what I was training back in the 80s, that's basically what I was doing anyway. So it's not a new thing. People have been doing it for ages, but it's once again, it's got into the media and it's become fashion to do that. But it's not right for everyone, but it depends on what you're doing and what your aims are. And if you're aiming to push yourself more than you've ever done before, why would you do the same thing as you've always been doing?
But I think if I could just sort of play devil's advocate a little bit, I understand why a lot of people really like the 80-20 thing as a safety precaution, because the human body is a delicate thing, as well as it being a tough and hard machine. But so many people will argue that, well, I know what my body can do. I know what it can withstand. I know where I can make it feel uncomfortable rather than pushing it to its extreme limit. And maybe I don't want these crazy improvements that, maybe I don't want to go to those extremes because I don't want it that much. I don't want the end result that much.
But then the 80-20 rule is perfect for them, because if they're happy where they are and that's what they want to do and they don't want to try and push their times quicker and things like that, then that's what they should be doing. Because
should we just sort of clarify what, for anyone that doesn't know, I'll tell you what I understand by the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your running throughout the week, of the volume of running that you do, should be at or below the anaerobic threshold or aerobic threshold. That's where I think there's a lot of confusion. So is it 20% should be anaerobic and above, or 20% should be aerobic threshold and above? Surely it's anaerobic and above, because anaerobic is sort of zone 4, leaving zone 4 to zone 5.
But a lot of people take the 80-20 rule as 80% easy and 20% hard training.
And you could include steady. Oh, yeah. So there's nothing in the middle.
Yeah, there's nothing in the middle. It's 80 easy, 20 of effort.
Yeah, well,
which that doesn't make sense to me.
No, that's probably not a sensible way to train, because they're probably thinking in their head, well, if I run really slow or really fast, surely on marathon day it'll all just balance out and I'll be able to run my marathon pace. That's probably what they're thinking, isn't it? But I think the whole 80-20 thing, a lot of people will shy away from faster stuff, A, because it's hard, and B, because they want to protect themselves, which I do understand. And, if you're a beginner runner and you take on too much too soon, then you could get yourself injured. I guess it all comes back to those two little words in it, risk and reward.
Yeah,
because
100%.
If you don't try, then you'll never know. You could argue. You could go for you could have a number in your head of a finish time you want to achieve, and you could go and achieve that with 80-20, but you could probably knock 20 minutes off that. if you trained in a different way.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't say have the bravery to do it, because in a way you could argue that for some people it would be stupid, because they might injure themselves and put themselves back
Yes.
Weeks, which I do totally and completely understand, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to, we're not professionals. We do this for fun. We pay to do this. So everyone's got different goals, expectations, which is why never, ever let anybody tell you what you should be doing.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Because they are not you and you are not them. Everyone's different. What works for me won't work for you, and vice versa, or may not work for you and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
and
that goes for people like me and you, who have got channels,
That's exactly why I would never do this is how you get a faster 5K time, or this is how you improve your marathon. What do I know?
Good for views, though.
It's great for views, but I'm not a sports scientist. I'm not a PT. I'm not a trained trainer. So why would I ever be doing a video like that? I'm not going to tell someone how they can run faster. I'm still learning how to do it myself as well, without destroying myself. So I'm getting advice from people. So yes, I can pass on that advice that I'm being given, but I'm not saying it works for everyone. And everyone's an individual. So everybody's body is, individual to themselves. So what I do isn't going to be the same as what the next person does. For instance,
go on.
Sorry. For instance, my cadence in my running is ridiculously quick. I take shorter strides than most other people. So I wouldn't say to somebody, hey, to run a faster 5K, make your cadence quicker. Do what I do, because
I'm going to get the tape measure out and do your stride length and make sure it's
So, because if their stride's longer, I'm not going to tell them to shorten their stride and be like mine. It'd be ridiculous, because that's how my body works, not how theirs works.
And in the same breath, that's a little bit how I feel about training plans as well, especially ones that are written as verbatim. This is how you get a sub 3 marathon. This is how you get a sub 3:30. This is how you get a sub 4. Those plans might not be accommodating that. You could be, I don't know, a school teacher who works 70 hours a week. How are you going to do a double threshold? When you've got, how are you going to do? Some people have to do the long runs on a Tuesday because they've got, they're out with the kids on the weekend. So it's to some degree. That's why training plans are very similar to that as well. Like the people that have written these plans, it's not the one size fits all. Just be careful with that, I guess. Because if you follow it to the letter.
They're not personalized. They don't know the stresses going on in your life.
And they don't know you, I guess.
And running isn't just a physical thing, it's a mental thing as well. So if you've got a lot going on and you've got a really stressful, hard job, that's going to affect your training. It's going to affect how your body is prepared to go and do those training sessions. So if they're telling you to go out and flog yourself on an evening after you've had a really hard day at work, whether physically or mentally, that's going to affect your training. And then they're saying you've got to hit certain paces, you don't hit them, and then you start feeling bad because you haven't hit the paces they've set. But they've set ridiculous paces for the situation that you're in.
And that's, I guess, why running clubs and coaches, people that are actual human beings watching over you, who can make professional, observations based on what what sort of runner you are. That's why that is so much. But if you're basically a runner who doesn't really know why they're not improving, or doesn't know what steps to take, let's just say you've signed up to your first marathon and you look at this training plan you've just bought and you think, well, what does strides mean? I don't really know what that means. What's aerobic threshold? You might, your money's probably better spent getting a coach, or getting, like you would say, get a running club sorted. Because you can literally ask these, what you consider to be stupid questions, because you didn't realize.
But there are no stupid questions. There are no stupid questions when it comes to training, because if you don't know something, somebody else will have the answer. But that doesn't make it a stupid question just because you don't know something. It just means you haven't caught up with the terminology, or you're not as experienced as someone else, or it doesn't mean it's stupid. I think questioning things like that makes you a better runner, because if you blindly follow, it's just like you're not going to achieve what you can if you actually understand why you're doing it.
Yeah. So for example, I used on my Brighton training plan, I got for my first ever marathon, I ran a 4:22, and I got the Ben Parks. I'm not having to go Ben Parks, because it's not Ben Parks that ran the marathon, it was me. But I got the 3:30 to 4 hour training plan and followed it as much as I could, which was exactly 2 years ago, and ended up running 4:22. And I can't blame Ben for that, because at the end of the day, I couldn't run what was on those, what were those prescribed things to run. But since then, I have never bought another training plan or downloaded one. I've just modified what was on that piece of paper. So I've got nothing but thanks to Ben for giving me those ideas of those. And it sounds so simple, but sessions where you'll do a long run and you have different paces throughout that long run. That blew my mind. The first time I would look at fast runners, put their things on Strava, and I'd be like, how are they doing 5K at 6 miles, and then they're doing the next 5K at exactly 6:30, and the next one a bit slower at 7, and they've got like this weird pyramid shape. Oh, hang on, this one seems to be getting faster and faster. Like, how are they literally doing this? And I didn't understand that. So it took me that training block and that training plan, took me a lot of failure basically to work a lot of that jargon out. And I can guarantee that if I bought the training plan that I'm doing, in fact, I'd still be in that zone now, because I'm still looking for a 3:30, 3:40 finish at my next marathon. A lot of that training would probably be very similar to what I did that day, 2 years ago. So I've just modified what was on that plan and made it customizable to me.
Yeah, but you now know
that's pretty much what I've done.
You now know your body as a runner, whereas when you first started, those generic plans, great for a first timer who doesn't really know what they're doing and hasn't got an idea about sessions, doesn't understand, as you say, changing pace and progressive runs and things like that. Perfect for somebody who's just starting out. But when you get into it, you've got to personalize it to yourself, because that's the way that you make progress for you.
I think that's exactly right. I think you know your own body, you know what you're capable of, you know where you can push, and you know where to pull back. And I know what sort of volume my body can sort of handle. And I know, I think what work you've got that week. You know what? Things like that, things that are not running related that you have to deal with. You know what you're eating that week, or you know what, if you're not very well or whatever, you can sort of modify things. So,
but that's exactly what I did this week. So Sunday, I finished a gig really late at night on the Saturday, so I wasn't getting up to do my early Sunday run. I was going to wait till the afternoon and do it a lot later. And then Tuesday, I had parents' evening at the college I work at, so I finished parents' evening at 8:30. So by the time I got home, it was 9 o'clock. I wasn't going to do my Tuesday session at 9 o'clock at night, so I waited and did it on Wednesday instead. So you have to have that variability and that ability to change your block, whereas a generic plan isn't going to go, oh, you got home a bit late. Well, I'm really sorry about that. Change your plan. It will say, this is what you've got to do at this time. Go and do it.
Yeah, because for example, for me on Sunday, I've got to do, I think, what was I last week? 26K. So this week I'm going to look to do 27, 28K. So my long runs are increasing week by week. But I've got a race. So I've got 21K of that 28 is a half marathon. And really, if it weren't a race, I'd probably be running that easy and steady and with a bit of marathon pace. But it's a half marathon race, so I'm going to be running that half marathon pace. So I'm probably, I don't quite know until I'm on the start line how I'm going to run. But you can bet your life I'm not going to start off at easy. I'm going to.
Are you going to add your miles before or after?
Well, I probably am going to do a short warm up and a longer cool down. That's probably what I'm going to do. So I'm probably do it. I've got 7K to make up. Yeah. So I've got 7K to make up. So what I'll probably do is just a little mile, 2K warm up, something like that, around the race course at Warwick, and then get the race done, and then 5K when I get back home, just as a really nice recovery. So that's probably how I'll make up the Sunday mileage.
So you're not even going to do it as a long run per se of do the warm up straight to the start line, do the race straight after you finish, carry on and do another bit of mileage. You're going to wait till you get home and do that extra when you get home.
That's the thing. That's where the whole having a life comes into it, because there's a few of us meeting up, afterwards, and we want to go for a drink, we want to go for a coffee. So I don't want to be the one that says, sorry guys, I've just got to do 5K. So what we're going to do, we're all just going to clap each other over the line, and then have a brew, go into Warwick and have a drink. And then I'll get home and I'll probably just have my own little recovery, with Daisy or something around the river. Yeah. And that's probably how it's going to go.
Good. This is the thing. Yeah. Training plan should be as adaptable as your life. You shouldn't have to change things just because you've got to do this mileage. But yeah. It's like you were talking about with alcohol. Like if you want to have a glass of wine, have a glass of wine. It's not going to ruin everything. And as soon as you start changing your life to fit around the running schedule, then you start to resent the running and you stop enjoying it so much.
You say that, but now my brain immediately goes to, if I didn't have them two glasses of red last week, was that 5 seconds per glass? Would I have got a PB? But I don't know, because you can't, I haven't got a time machine. It's pointless thinking about that, isn't it? But exactly. I know that on this podcast, I had a drink last week and I really enjoyed it. So I don't care.
That was my question is, did you enjoy the glasses of wine?
Yes. And I enjoyed the Parkrun as well.
Therefore, does it matter?
No, does not matter.
Exactly. There we go.
So yeah. So tonight I'm having a bottle. No, I'm joking. I'm actually not having a drink this week because I realised that because I'm a lightweight these days. I think I must have been drunker than I thought, but I didn't even switch on my microphone for this podcast last week, so my audio was horrific. So I apologise for that, because I'd logged in to what we use to do the podcast, and I'd used the internal microphone, and it's just shoddy. And this week I've got the proper bad boy. So hopefully you can hear me a bit better. So yes, no alcohol, no mistakes this week.
You are coming through loud and clear.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you go.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the notes and what we'd put down to talk about, and around that whole thing of long runs and stuff. Your peak week, because we talked about this 20 miler. Your peak week for this marathon, what are you thinking for your longest run mileage-wise for peak week? Because we know you're going to you want to try and hit about 60 mile, don't you? About 100K.
Yes.
So 62 mile for your peak week.
Yeah. So I think a 32K. So that's about 19 and a bit. I think. I don't know. I can't remember the conversion. I think
will be your peak week.
Miles.
So therefore, when you set off on this 20-mile run with half a mile to go, you're going to back out of the race and just.
I was going to stop.
Sorry, I've done my mileage now.
Stop the watch. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Got to go. Call it on the head. Training plan says no more than 19 and a half miles. But yeah, it's probably going to be 20. I don't think I'm going to do. A lot of people will go up to 23, won't they? Some people will do a marathon as a, an easy marathon. Yeah. But for me, I mean, this is going to sound. God, I'm going to regret saying this, but it's not the first 20 miles that are a problem for marathons for me. It's the last 6. It's the last 10K, and you can't practice
No.
a 10K having done 20 miles until you're in the marathon. So I don't know how I'm going to feel. But I'll tell you one thing quickly, what I'm doing to really help myself is two things. I'm changing my fueling and I'm doing S&C. And I know you'll be really pleased to hear that, because it's taken me 2 years. It's taken me 2 years to get to this point where I've just basically fluked it and I've not got myself injured, and I've managed to stay on my own 2 feet and never pull a hamstring or a thigh or a quad or whatever. And I know that time is, those injuries are coming for me. So I need to be as ready as I can. And I also have heard a theory, I think it might have been Will Fu, who said that the cramping sensations that he has felt on almost all his marathons were something to do with his muscle, lack of muscle tone, or his lack of strength in a certain area.
Yeah, he was saying when he was doing a certain variation of the glute bridge, he could feel in his hamstrings the same sensation of when you get hamstring cramp. And I know exactly what he's talking about. So when you do a glute bridge in your S&C.
So this is when you've got you're lying on the ground, you've got your
lying on your back,
with your knees up,
and then put your feet flat on the floor, and you lift your pelvis off the floor,
from your shoulders,
so your bum's not on the floor. So you try and make like a triangle shape, basically, from your knees. But with a glute bridge, the closer your heels are to your bum, the more it's working your glutes. The further away your feet are, the more it's working your hamstrings. So it moves from being a glute bridge into a hamstring bridge.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of time, so in my S&C, I do a glute bridge, and then I do single leg glute bridge, and then take a step forward with both of my feet and do a hamstring bridge for a period of time as well. And then there's other variations where you can go from glute bridge and walk into a hamstring bridge and walk back and do variations like that. And as soon as you go into that hamstring bridge, you can feel your hamstrings the way that they feel when they cramp at the end of the marathon. So I know exactly what Will's talking about.
I could probably imagine that. Well, I don't know what the percentage would be, but a safe percentage of people will cramp up in their hamstrings above many other muscles in a marathon at 20 mile and above, or maybe 16 and further, because it's either your calves, your quads, or your hammies, isn't it? Really, it's one of those three groups, and I think hamstrings is probably the one. Sorry,
they seem to be my weakness as well, because I'm exactly the same as Will, and I've never finished a marathon without hamstring cramp.
Really?
So I know exactly what he's talking about, and I do think that conditioning and muscle fatigue are a contributing factor to these cramping things. So because he's been looking at a lot of research of people where they've been saying it's not so much electrolytes, it could be your conditioning and your strength within your hamstrings. So once they're getting weak, they're then getting too much stress on them. That's when they cramp up.
Well, if you think about it, so many people, let's say, who don't do S&C like me, will literally do a 26-mile run, take 4 little tablets of electrolyte and blame it on the electrolytes, and not the 16 weeks worth of lack of glute bridges. It's nothing to do with the lack of S&C. It's all to do with the electrolytes. So if you think about it,
I did exactly the same. I blamed it on the electrolytes last year, but
it's always a lack of electrolytes.
But I do think it was partly lack of electrolytes for me, because I took on like a third of what they recommend. I was stupid. Because I miscalculated completely. But it's the same as when you're running, a lot of runners completely ignore your core. And it's amazing how much your core actually does as a runner, because as soon as your core gets tired, your posture changes, and then that changes the way that you're running, and you're putting stress on muscles that you don't normally use when you're running. And that's when you start to get all sorts of problems. So your core is one of your main things you need to get strong as a runner, just so when you get to that point where you're fatiguing, your core isn't fatiguing at the same point, and you're still managing to keep that posture whilst you're running.
Well, when I'm doing my S&C, I've started doing some kettlebell workouts. I've been watching some people on YouTube and just doing a workout alongside them. And my when I'm doing my squats, my dips, my bends, I'm realizing just how much I've been missing out because my glutes are in a bad way. There's no power there. And I know it's like a buzzword when they say your glutes aren't firing, but mine, I don't think mine ever have. And I can see now. I do those weighted squats and things, just where the areas that I need to improve on, because I feel it the next 2 days, with the DOMs. Like I just feel like, wow, I've got a lot of work to do here. But it's a bit of a wake up call, isn't it? Getting DOMs, because you realize, actually, this is almost like a nice pain to have. I know the areas that I've worked on. I know the areas that are weaker than others. And I'm actually looking forward to my S&Cs now. I'm doing at least 2 a week. I'm doing one with weights and one just resistance, and a yoga stretch as well. So I know the yoga I do is normally part of my recovery on a Monday. So it's not really an intensive workout. It's more of literally a recovery. But really starting to enjoy it.
Are you doing your S&C on days when you are running, or are you doing them on your rest days?
Yeah, I've decided, because I told you my training plan. Then I saw your face when I decided to put my S&C on my days off running. And I was like, no, actually, I don't mean that. I was joking. I'm keeping my Mondays and Fridays free. So I've decided to do sporadically across the week. I think I'm trying to aim for Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays for my S&C days. And so days off are days off.
Good. Yeah. Because I have Wednesday and Friday off every week as a rest day, but they are complete rest days, as in I do no exercise at all. And then I tend to do half an hour of S&C 3 times a week. Normally Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday after my runs.
Right.
And then every night before I go to bed, I do 15-20 minutes of yoga stretching.
Yeah.
Just to try and supple myself up, because when I first started running, I was the least flexible person in the world. So just anything to try and make me a little bit more flexible is good.
So maybe we could ask our listeners what they think the ideal amount of S&C is per week. You do how many do you do? 3, did you say?
Yeah, 3 lots of half an hour. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite a lot. Because the sessions I've been doing are only 20 minutes and below. So,
but you've been doing weighted stuff though, haven't you? Whereas I'm still doing body weight stuff at the moment.
Like resistance stuff. Yeah.
But I will slowly build weight into it as I get stronger.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Is 3 too much? Is it not enough? If you're doing, let's say, if you're aiming for sub 3, what do you find is the optimum amount? If you're going for sub 4 or sub 5, your marathons, do you do no S&C like I've never done, and you've only just started it this new year? Let us know, because I've only just started it. I'm being honest. I've always neglected it, and I've had a bit of a wake up call, to be honest.
Yes.
I'm realizing how weak I am in certain areas. Mainly my legs, which you need for marathons. So,
just quickly going back to the whole cramping thing as well. I was listening to the Inside Running podcast this week, and they had the founder of Precision Hydration on.
Yeah, cool.
And they interviewed him, and he was talking about cramping and whether it is electrolytes or whether it's conditioning and muscle fatigue and everything. And he said it is very individual to each person. So there is no one size fits all, the same as we were talking about training. So you can't. And he said it's really hard to test how cramping comes on and whether it is due to electrolytes or whether it's muscle fatigue or something like that, because cramping is like an injury. And he said, so they can't do any testing of when cramps hit, because the testing would basically be injuring all of the people that they're testing. So it's never actually been like scientifically done properly. But
they'd have to induce cramp to diagnose it.
Which is it's not going to happen. So there's not been a huge amount of research into it. But he said on their website there's a questionnaire you can fill in, and it will give you a idea of how much during a marathon, how many electrolytes, like the milligrams of electrolytes you should be taking per hour, the amount of carbs you should be taking per hour and everything. And he said about 80% of the people that he's spoken to that have always said they suffer from cramping in a marathon, when they've done that and worked out exactly how much they should be having and they hit that amount, it does stop a lot of people having those cramping issues. So that's something I'm going to look into for this. I'm going to look into how much I should be taking on as for me personally, and see if I can get rid of that cramping issue.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah. Well, I've got, just as I look at the clock and realize that we've taken up an hour and 10 minutes of people's time.
Oh, yes. Man.
It's time for what you've all been waiting for. It's time for Brett's End of the Podcast quiz. I can never remember what I call it, so that's what we'll call it.
I'm going to turn it on its head one week, and I'm going to make a quiz for you.
Oh, yeah, bring it on. But today, the theme is general knowledge, because I couldn't find the thing.
General running knowledge, or just general knowledge full stop?
No, well, you see the first question, it really is general knowledge. Okay, so question 1. Which band released the best-selling album Band on the Run?
Oh, that was Wings.
Only the band the Beatles could have been, in the words of Alan Clark.
Yeah.
Correct. Oh, right. Okay. Question 2. You'll like this one. I think this is gettable for you. In October 2019, Eliud Kipchoge became the first man ever to run a marathon in under 2 hours. What city, in which European country, did he accomplish this feat?
Oh, I don't know. Because I know it was the second time they'd attempted it, because obviously they had the Breaking 2 where he didn't quite manage it the year before.
Oh, I didn't know it was his second attempt.
Yeah. So they tried it the year before, and it was a big thing sponsored by Nike called Breaking 2, and they were going to break 2 hours, and he didn't quite manage it.
Was it the Ineos thing?
That was the second one.
That was the second one.
The Ineos, Ineos 159 was the second one.
Right. Okay.
And that's when he broke it. I think, was it in? I don't know. Was it in Spain?
No, incorrect. It was in Vienna, in Austria.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah. So you've got 1 out of 2, 50%. Okay.
But some general knowledge around it, so I get half a point, yeah?
Well, no. No. So for 13 years straight, and I think these quizzes were written in the pandemic, in lockdown. For 13 years straight, which world famous marathon is the largest annual single day charity funding raising event, raising 66.4 million in 2019 alone?
Well, the man we were talking about earlier tells us about this each year, and his dulcet tones whilst narrating the London Marathon.
Yes, yes, that is correct. It is the London Marathon. So next one. Okay, the treadmill is an English invention from 1817. But what was its original intention?
I would say it was to possibly do something like grind corn or grind wheat into flour, and there was some sort of animal on the treadmill powering the grinder.
That's actually quite an ingenious, intuitive answer. But no, the answer is actually better. The answer
Go on,
is
then.
it was invented as punishment for prisoners.
What?
It was a torture machine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
in 1817.
So when we choose to go to the gym and get on that treadmill, we are putting ourselves through torture.
Basically, yeah. So the last
and
question,
it is standing in the same. Well, I'd say running on the same spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I call it the dreadmill. I
treadmill.
hate the treadmill. It's
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
I don't even have one to moan about because I'm not a member of a gym, and I don't have one in the garage or anything, so I can't really comment. But I know that I would bloody hate it.
Yeah.
So the last question. This is a bit of a shocker, actually. The Boston Marathon, or the Boston Marathon, was the first marathon to allow women to enter. But what year were women finally allowed to participate?
I bet it's later than you expect.
Well, it depends. It depends.
Because you would think, you would think they would be allowed from a long time ago, but I bet it's
While you're on, let me just say, I think the Boston Marathon is like 100 years old. I think.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I'm going to put first.
It's the oldest marathon, isn't it? The Boston Marathon.
First Boston Marathon. I think it was 18 something. When was the Boston Marathon? 1897. Okay, so that gives it a bit of gives you a little bit of perspective. From 1897, when was the first time they allowed women?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I reckon it's a lot later than you would think it should be. So I'm gonna go something controversial like 1970. 1976.
Close. You're actually quite close. 1972 is the answer.
Yeah. See, that's mad, isn't it?
The word allow. I can't. So I've read that in the UK. So when was the first London? 1981 or something like that?
Yes, the year I was born. Yes.
So I think at the time in the UK, I don't think women were, or maybe they were running in. I'm talking about a subject I know nothing about, by the way, so I'm probably, hopefully, not going to offend anybody. But I think women were not allowed to run further than something like 5K at the time. It's bonkers and so backwards, isn't it?
Have you seen the videos of when a woman tried? I think it might have been the London Marathon, but I can't remember what marathon it is. But a woman sneaked onto the start line and started racing, and men were like kicking her and trying to push her to stop her. Not people who were racing, spectators were trying to drag her off the course to stop her from racing because she shouldn't have been racing because it was men only.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah.
Wow. What a world we used to live in, or well, we didn't used to live in, but some people listening to this might have lived in that world. That is absolutely crazy.
I know.
Wow. Maybe anybody listening might have competed in the 1972 Boston Marathon. If you did, let us know. In fact, if anyone is still listening at this point, when was your first marathon? Let us know if anyone competed in a running race.
That's a great question for the listeners. Yeah. When did you first complete a marathon?
Yeah, mine was 2022, so I'm a newbie. When was yours?
2012.
Right, so you got 10 years.
Was it 2012? Hang on, yeah, 2012. The year of the Olympics. The Olympics was my yes. Let's do this.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, 2012. So yeah, 10 years before your one.
Yeah, 2012. At the time I was just running like. I had a mate who used to do the Great North Run every year, and he'd say to me, "Do you want to do it with me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, go on then." And this would be like now, like January, February, because he'd be starting to do like training, getting ready for the summer and getting into September, and doing a long year of training. And I'd literally do 3 runs, just like the majority of people. The reason why Parkrun has only got 200 people now, and it had 600 people the first week of January, because I'd fell off the wagon already. I'd do 2 or 3 runs in January, first week, and think, I ain't doing that again. It's too cold. It's too hard.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered. So I never, ever got into it until lockdown. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
My first run.
As bad as it was, and it was awful, it had some positives about the way that people started thinking about their health.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like, I've just got to do this to keep my sanity, really, because I've got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a key worker or anything like that. I had to, God, when was the last time you said that? That's such a pandemic term. Key worker. So I didn't really have hell of a lot to do. So for 3 months, or until I went back to work that year, 2020, it was about May or June, end of May, I think it was, for that 2 months in that spring. Because you remember that spring of 2020 was glorious as well.
Yeah, I know.
Could you remember? So here's the thing, right? Here's another thing we can ask our listeners is, were you entered for the spring marathon in 2020? And how did you feel? Because if a marathon was taken away from me now, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Especially because when it all happened, it was like March the 20th, wasn't it? March or something like that.
Yeah, and so people were probably at peak weeks.
Yeah. And then, so you're doing you're thinking on Sunday, I've got a 20-mile run. And then you got Boris saying, no, sorry, guys, you're only allowed out for an hour now. And by the way, that event you're doing? Yeah, it's not going to happen for the next 2 years. Like, that must have messed with your head if you were, training for a marathon that year. So, let us know if you were training for any races. And what did you do? Did you do a marathon around your back garden? Did you do a marathon around your local park? What did you do?
Yep. Yeah. It's mad. Man. It's crazy what's happened over the last few years, isn't it? And how things have changed.
Yeah.
We live in a different world to what we did pre-COVID.
Yeah. But I've just looked again at the clock, and I'm thinking that hopefully by the time people are peaking in March, we can do like a 3-hour, 2.5 hour podcast, so it'll last their entire run. At the moment, we're getting you through your 1 hour 20 run, so hopefully we've lasted your entire run. So make sure you can't listen to this podcast if you're doing 20 miles or less. It's just not enough. It's not long enough. Yeah, brilliant. Dude, I think that's us for another week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we should probably call it there, and come back next time. But best of luck for Sunday, and to everyone racing on the weekend, or anyone running Warwick Half. I hope you have an amazing race, and run your socks off.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do. I don't think I'm going to go for a PB, famous last words, but it's always good to say that, isn't it? Because when you realise that 18K, it's not going to happen, you're like, well, I wasn't going for it anyway. But I think what I'll be happy with is a course PB. So to beat 140, to come somewhere in the sweet spot between my PB, which was with you, which is 135 and a change, 45. So somewhere between 136 and 140. So if I can aim for 138, I think I'll be in good shape.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So that'd be a really, really good effort for me. So that's where I'd like to be.
Good.
We'll chat about it next week.
Yes. And Parkrun in the morning?
Nice and easy one for me, because Laura is going to Arrow Valley. It's her favourite parkrun, and she just fancies doing it as a bit of a workout. So we've got a little bit of a planned session for her to do. She's doing
excellent
800s and then 200s, and so she's got a little session to do tomorrow. So we'll be doing that.
I will see you there bright and early in the morning then.
Epic. Sounds really good. Looking forward to it.
All right, and dude, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Ta-ra.